Yo, what is up, guys? I'm back after a long time. It's been a long time. I'm trying to come back with some kind of different videos, no gameplay videos this time, more kind of coaching, talking about the game, things I like to see in the game, and changes I'd like to see, and basically how to improve at the game, because I feel like there's plenty of VODs out there, and good matches, and streamed matches and stuff, but not a lot of videos out there on how to actually get better at Hearthstone, how to play better, how we can change the game, how the game can be better. So I thought I'd start bringing some content like that. It's something I would enjoy more, and that's what I'm getting into right now. So today, I'm here with 10 tips to instantly improve it. Well, not instantly, to improve at Hearthstone. It's going to take time, it's going to take grinding, but these are 10 tips I think you can apply to your game, the way you play, that are really going to make you climb those ranks. You think you're hard stuck somewhere? Implement these 10 tips into your game, and you will be climbing in no time. I originally posted this guide to Reddit 8 months ago. I typed these 10 tips out. It's a full guide. I will link it in the description. But I thought I'd do it in video form because I think these tips are still relevant today, and kind of elaborate on stuff that would take a long time to say in text and that I can type it out. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. And yeah, let's get into tip number 1. Okay, so straight into tip number 1. We have focus on 1 or 2 meta decks. And what this means is you basically just take a deck that is doing well, that you can afford, and play it a lot. Learn its mulligans, learn what it's good against, learn what it's bad against, learn how you win the good matchups hard, learn how you win the match, but how you can win the bad matchups. You got to really focus on learning every single thing about this deck so you can utilize it to its full potential. If on HS Replay it's a 53% win rate deck, played averagely you can get a 53% win rate. Played poorly less, played better more. But if you can really learn the ins and outs of this deck and how to play it really, really well, you can get that win rate climbing and climbing and climbing. Remember, to climb, all you technically need is above a 50% win rate over enough time. So if you can really just keep improving that win rate and learning this deck really, really well, and it's already a good deck, it's much better than spreading out over 10 different decks, not really knowing what you're doing with this one, and being okay at them all. You're going to stay roughly around 50%. Also, it's a good thing to remember that, yeah, you'll lose a lot at the start, especially with more difficult decks. You're not going to get them straight away. You won't get a hand on the mulligan. You won't start recognizing playstyles. You won't start recognizing situations. But it's just going to take some time. Maybe I've seen streamers go 0-5 at the start of streams, 0-7, and finish even, finish positive. Just take some time, can hit a run of bad matchups, can have some games where you're just not playing as well as you would when you're 20-30 games down the line, and that happens. But if you focus on one deck, and a deck you enjoy, make sure it's something that is a playstyle that you know you like. If you like aggro, pick an aggro deck that's strong. If you like control, pick a control deck that's strong. But just pick something you know you're going to like, you know you're going to enjoy, and that, yeah, you're going to get a lot out of. Now that we've chosen a deck, a strong tier 1, tier 2 deck, you can choose that off HS Replay or Fish's Syndicate or any kind of website that you think has got an accurate representation of the meta. We're going to think of, how do you learn this deck? Usually on ladder, after a really good game, or you add a friend request. You'll add someone, and they might be nice. They might be toxic and tell you to die. You ignore those ones, but they might be nice. And if you meet a nice person who's about the same skill level as you, feel free to ask them to co-op, watch your games, tell you what they think you're doing wrong, what they think you're doing right. Send friends replays. Say, look, this game was really close. I thought I should have won. Why didn't I win? Well, what do you think? Why didn't I win? What turns could I do better? At the highest level of play, this still happens all the time. I remember after Eddie won Masters Tour Bucharest, he spent a whole stream going through the finals after he won, pointing out all the misplays. He said he made over 30 misplays in that whole finals because he was playing really difficult control decks. And that's crazy. The fact that at that very highest level, all these mistakes he didn't spot at the time. Otherwise he would have fixed them. Just going through, getting other people to review, getting other people to watch and see. And you spot all these kind of mistakes. You want to know why you lost every game. If you've come out of a game and you don't know why you lost, you haven't learned anything. Use getting friends, getting streamers, ask people questions, and ask them, how can I improve? And that's just having that growth mindset and learning to improve. When playing Hearthstone, I feel like you always have to have an open mind. Technically, there's always a best line, similar to kind of like chess, in the sense that there is always a maximum percentage play you can make at any time. Always be prepared for someone to suggest something different or something new, and be able to take it when someone says, you know what, you could have done this better. You don't always have to argue back. No, actually, I think I was right. Maybe you were right. But maybe just be able to say, you know what, that's a good idea. Maybe I should have tried that. Maybe that would have won. Maybe it wouldn't. Who knows? I know loads of aspiring pros and semi-pros who'll send screenshots upon screenshots to friends in Discord servers just to ask what's to play because they might mess it up in ladder, but they're open-minded enough to take that in and try and improve next time. And I think that's a really important part of improving as a player. Now, this is probably the biggest tip in my opinion. Watch as much streams as you can. YouTube is also good. The issue with YouTube is you usually just see the best games, the craziest RNG games, and you don't always see the average games, the close games. The games where, you don't get the best hand and you don't draw the ramp and you don't draw the combo cards and you don't get Edwin on turn 2. You don't see them as much. So I think streams are one of the best tools for learning. When I came back to Hearthstone about 2.5, 3 years ago, after taking a long break and was learning the game again, I just watched lots of streams, loads of high level players, loads of grandmasters, loads of high legend players, and just watched them all the time, watched what they were doing with certain decks, why they were doing it. I asked them, I was that annoying guy in Twitch chat who was like, why did you keep this in the mulligan? Why did you trade this way? Why did you do this? And just that annoying guy, politely. I wasn't like, you're an idiot, you didn't do my play. Politely just asking and trying to improve myself. And when they give an answer, you understand. And usually I just took the don't be stubborn line and just assumed they were right because they're professional players. They're pretty good at the game. And I just took what they said and maybe I should try that in my games. And I would try it in my games. And if it worked, it worked. I think watching loads of streams, loads of good players, and I know there's a lot of battleground streamers at the moment. Trying to find good constructed streamers can be hard. I'm not trying to plug myself. I'm just saying that, yeah. Another good resource you can use is HS Replay. If you go to the deck you want, you go to the streams tab, and it will link you to any streamer playing that deck. So again, you go back to tip 1, you pick one meta deck, and if you can find streamers playing that deck at high ranks, and you just watch what they do, watch what they mulligan for, watch how they play, really, really good way to improve. 100% recommend watching streams when you can. Tip number 5 is a really interesting one, and it's to do with how you play. So when you make a play, you should always play with a purpose, and you got to think, what does this achieve in response to these 3 areas? What does it leave you with in hand? So what does it use? What do you keep? If you use all your board clears on a smaller board, will you have any for later in the game? Will you need any later in the game? If it's an aggro deck with no cards in their hand, you probably don't need any more, but you might need more against other decks. Highlander Warrior, in a world where this exists, you only have one Brawl. If you use that Brawl, you're not going to have another one. So you got to be kind of more conservative with your resources. The second thing to consider is what state the board is in after your play, before you make the play. So if you're pushing more damage face, we're going to leave more minions on board for your opponent. Is that okay because you almost killed them? Or is it better to trade? Sometimes a mistake I see a lot of newer players make is over trading all the time. When they have burst in hand and they're never going to win back board, they might as well push damage while they can because they know their deck doesn't win back board against others. Obviously that takes time to learn matchups and learn where that works. But you want to constantly be asking yourself questions and find what each line of play achieves compared to the others. So not just what happens, like yes, my minions trade and then it's good. What does that achieve for you? Does it control the board? Does it stop your opponent killing you? Does it push damage face? I don't know. It varies for very certain situations. It's really hard to give general tips about Hearthstone just because every little situation is different. So you just got to think what you're achieving in each situation. If the answer is nothing, it's probably not a good play. The last thing you want to think about is what's left in each player's deck. A deck tracker from HS Replay can really help out with this, but you want to know, does your opponent have a lot of board clears left? Do they have burst? A really interesting thing against Rogue these days is, are both eviscerates gone? Can you live life on the edge on 5 health, 4 health? Can you? It's hard to know. This can be harder against decks with a lot more created by influence, but you can still look to say, well, he has a 1 Thief spell in hand. He hasn't played this for 4 turns. Probably Pyroblast, Mask of Cthulhu, some kind of burst. I should try and preserve as much health as possible. So what's left in each player's deck and their hand can be super, super important for how you play around. And it's way less random than you think. You can predict and you can understand what's in your opponent's hand a lot easier than you think. I might do a full video on hand reading later, on a later date. But for the moment, what's in their deck and what could potentially be in their hand are super important things to always keep in the back of your mind. Tip 6 is probably the biggest common mistake I see. And this is just people blaming RNG whenever they lose. I lost this game. I was unlucky. I would be rank 1 legend if I was not so unlucky. I would make this rank if I wasn't so unlucky. I would have won this game if I wasn't so unlucky. You know, that one I can get away with. But when I think about RNG in Hearthstone, I think it's much, much smaller factor than people think. Yes, there's ridiculous moments that are on trolling and stuff. And obviously when you look at them, you're like, wow, this whole game's RNG. Like, because we epitomize it from its one big moment. Like, if you look at the extent, the furthest moment with the craziest RNG, yes, you're going to think the whole game's RNG. But let's look at things like Blazes winning back-to-back Masters Tour, going 8-1 twice, making top 8 against the best players in the world, and then winning top 8 against both players in the world. Let's look at Hunter Ace. That year, he basically won everything and then won the World Championships with some insane play. Let's look at Gabby, rank 1 legend, 7 or 8 times finished last month. Like, is he just really lucky? Are these just really lucky players? Is that what differentiates them from gold players? Just they're good at rolling dice? Of course not. Like, of course not. A lot more is in your control in Hearthstone than you think. When you're in a winning position, minimize your chance of losing to RNG. Play around that random Pyro Blast if it's the only way you lose. If there's only one way you lose, just play around it. If you can, where possible. If you're in a losing position, why not go for that 1 in 3 for the game? Why not take the risk if it's the only way you win? Doesn't mean if you hit that 1 in 3, oh, you were insanely lucky because you made the right decision to take the risk. There are literally, if you go from turn 1, you can have 1 or 2 things to do. Turn 2, there's maybe 1 or 2 things you can do. Turn 3, there's like 3 things you can do. Turn 4, and it just branches out. The ways you can trade, the ways you can play your cards, the ways you can weave in hero powers, the way you spend your mana. And there's thousands of possibilities in a single game of all the different decisions, tiny decisions you can make differently. And I can almost guarantee in pretty much every game, if you did every single decision perfectly, you could win most games. But obviously it's hard to know how good a decision is in reference to your opponent's hand, how good a decision is in reference to what certain deck list your opponent's playing, how good it is in reference to like what evolves you might get. And I know this isn't the best meta to be making a video about skill on, because Evolve Shaman does exist, but I think these are really good Hearthstone fundamentals to learn. Because if you come out of a game, and all you say is, I lost to RNG, there is nothing I could have learned from this game, couldn't have improved whatsoever, you just lost a star, lost some time and learned nothing. Blaming RNG just holds you back, stops you improving, and genuinely just makes you a more angry person. Here's the tip that I struggle with the most. If you've heard me talking over the start of this video, you'll probably agree. Slow down. Play slower. Talk slower. Think slower. You have plenty of time. There are so many lines. And this video is for if you want to take improving at the game seriously. If you want to just play on your lunch break, play while you're on the toilet, you probably have to go fast. But if you're seriously thinking of improving, one of the best things you can do is just slow down and think. Think of every decision you can make. Don't discount nothing. Think of different combinations of cards. Think of what they achieve. I don't think you can do all that in 10-15 seconds. Unless you're Blazes, in which case you're like 5 steps ahead of everyone else. As much as it might annoy your opponents that you rope out, take all the time you need. If you need to think about everything, think about it. If a turn is really hard, think about it. A lot of the time it's good to recognize when a hard turn is coming up or when a turn is going to be hard and say to yourself, I'm roping this turn. And that's a weird thing to say, but like we look at Yarla, one of the best players in the world, ropes pretty much every turn. Same with Bunny Hopper. Because you don't want to make a mistake you're going to regret in the future. And if you use all your time, you're going to minimize your chance of making the mistake because you've thought everything over, you've thought of the results. You shouldn't be surprised when something happens. You shouldn't be surprised when you make a play and you're like, oh, you know, like I could have done this instead. Like you should have already considered that option and made the best option. If you need to call up with a friend and it takes all the time to argue with them over which play is right and discuss the play, that's fine. Honestly, it's just a good way to improve. If you were making a life decision, like Hearthstone is a game about decision making. If you're making a life decision, you're not going to be like, you know, I got to really make this really tough life decision. Nah, 10 seconds, it's done. You're going to think about it. You're going to think it over. You're going to think of the results. You're going to think of what happens. Hearthstone is literally a game based on decision making. Like, it's a game using that skill. So use it the way you would in any other context and you will improve. Hearthstone has a lot more depth than you realize, and you're probably blaming RNG, so you don't realize that. Tip numero 8, interrogate yourself. Not in a weird, lonely way, but in a kind of, after every loss, ask yourself why you lost that game. After every win, ask yourself, well, why did I win that game? What did I do better than my opponent? What did I do worse than my opponent? What did he do well that I can learn from? Was it just a bad matchup? Was my draw really awful? Or did I just not make the most of my draw because I was waiting on getting the perfect mulligan? I think a lot of people only classify misplays as if you miss lethal. That's a misplay and that's bad. There are so many mistakes people make. They're just subtle, little suboptimal line. Maybe they trade badly and leave -1 health in their minion and get punished. Maybe they overtrade. They don't go face enough. Maybe, I don't know, you fall behind and you keep fighting for board when realistically you're never going to get it back. One of the best things about losing, and I hate saying there's great things about losing, is that you generally learn more. Like if I make a 12-12 Edwin on turn 3, smack him in the face 3 times, did I really learn that much? If he does the same to me, also not learning that much. Not a good example. Well done me. But thank you, Edwin, for ruining skill moments. When you're asking yourself why you lost a game, never let the answer be luck. The answer should never be, oh, I lost that game because of RNG. I lost that game because I didn't draw my risky skipper. I lost the game because I didn't draw my good cards. The question is not like why you lost that game or why you didn't. The question is, why didn't you play well enough? What did you not do with the resources you had? What did you, like, as long as you did the best with what you're given, it's a good game. You've improved. You want to do the best with the hand you're dealt, not just linger on, oh, I didn't get overgrowth, so I lost this game. Well, what could you have done with the hand you had? And I think that's super important. If your opponent does something really well, notice it, recognize it, and say, well, if I ever play the deck my opponent's playing, that was really nice. I like the way he didn't trade there. I like the way he made 10-10 Edwin on turn 2. Okay, no, I didn't like that. But, you know what I mean? I like the way his order was correct. He discovered first. Stuff like this that can be super interesting and can help you improve yourself. Tip number 9. Most of us, I don't know where you are, but are in lockdown at the moment, and it is easy to get carried away playing games for a long period of time over and over because there's nothing else to do. However, Hearthstone is not a muscle memory game. It's a thinking game, it's a brain game, and if you play for long periods of time, and if you start getting tilted, and if you start getting angry, you're gonna make more mistakes. It's a brain game. You're not gonna be judging stuff well, and you're gonna be much more prone to just making careless errors over and over again. So if you're hitting a losing streak, and if you just feel like, even though I'm winning, I don't think I'm playing well, I'm making a lot of mistakes, because that's a good thing to recognize. Just because you won doesn't mean you played well, and just because you lost doesn't mean you played badly. If you're playing badly and winning loads, it's still a good idea to take at least like a 30-minute break if you can. Try and go outside, get a breath of fresh air. Don't even think about the game. Don't think about the games you lost. Just be chill about it and take some time out. I think a lot of people, especially as a streamer, I find myself having a good stream, wanting to stream, but losing a lot. And I just keep playing, and I get in the cycle of playing and losing and losing. One day, a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, I hit my peak at that time of like rank 5 legend. So I was really happy with myself. Hit my peak of rank 5 legend. I was happy. And the stream was going really well, so I just kept playing. I kept playing, and I lost. And then I lost more. And then I was like, oh, I'll switch deck because I'm losing. And I lost more. It's like, oh, I switched to something else. I lost more. Switched to something else, lost more. Oh, it must be the deck, you know. I'll switch deck again. No, I was just playing really badly. And if I went back and reviewed that VOD of that stream, I could be like, that's a mistake, that's a mistake, that's a mistake. Because I was just playing badly because I was angry. And I was like, oh, I'm just getting unlucky. My 30% win rate is because I'm unlucky. I dropped 300 ranks that day just from playing badly because I was tilted, because I was mad, because I didn't take a break, because I didn't hydrate, because I didn't know all these tips that I wish I'd known now. Meta variants can be rough sometimes. You'll hit bad matchups. You'll go 0-5. You'll go 0-7. You'll lose a lot of games. But if you can just pick that back up, like, at the end of the day, your aim shouldn't be your rank. You should ignore your rank. Your rank does not matter how good you are as a player. It's a flex, sure. Your people on your friends list will see it and be like, wow, you're doing great. But what really matters is how well you play the game. If I drop ranks and I'm comfortable, I think I'm playing good Hearthstone, maybe I'm hitting some bad matchups, maybe I'm getting a little bit unlucky, or I'm playing against better players, although I think I'm playing well. It happens. I think it's just about how well you play. And as long as you're happy with how you play, that's all that matters. So taking breaks, drinking water, don't tilt switch. Biggest mistake you can make. Just because you're losing with a deck, do not switch decks. Unless you're hitting literally 70% of a hard counter matchup. And I would check your stats for that. Don't bias yourself thinking every game's a counter when it's really not. You can use HS Replay to track how much of everything else you play against. Just chill. Take a break. Come back. Ready to play good Hearthstone. Tip number 10. If you've made it to the end, drop a like, I guess. And yeah, on to the last tip. Play with a purpose. Every time you make a decision, it should do something. It should achieve something. A common misconception I see is someone asking, why did you make this play? I don't know. I had 3 mana and that card costs 3. Well, no, that's not a good reason. I want to see why you did this, why it's better than this. This is why co-oping can be so great, because it can tell you, someone else can ask you, like, oh, why'd you make that play? I would have done this. And if you have an answer, if you have a prepared answer, then you've made a good play. The answer might be wrong, but at least you've thought about it. And that person can either say, well, I think your thought process is a bit off because maybe we win this way. Maybe we do this. Or they can say, oh, I didn't think of that. That's a great idea. But always have a reason of why you do anything. See, way too many players just play stuff. Your reason could be as simple as tempo good. This play generates tempo, therefore it's good. That's fine, but at least you have a reason. Yeah, sometimes the reason can literally be, it was the least bad play. And honestly, it's a bit more effort to explain, because you have to say this play was bad because of this play played into this play was bad because of this, therefore I did nothing, therefore I just totemed and passed. But you always have a reason what you play. You want to think about the 3 main things again. What's best for your board, your hand, and your deck. Sometimes there can be a play that's super good on the board and leaves your hand empty. And well, you got to think for further turns. Is that going to impact my further turns? Probably. And you're going to have nothing afterwards. Is this play super good and then fatigues me? Well, then you have no deck. You want to have a play that it's good for all 3. And in some situations, maybe prioritizing the board is important. Maybe prioritizing your hero's health is important. You just got to think with reason, why am I doing every single thing I am doing? Well, I guess that is the end, guys. If you guys like this style of talking video, please let me know. Let me know what kind of talking videos you'd like to see more of. Let me know if there's anything I didn't cover. The original written guide, if you prefer reading or genuinely can't understand my really fast, bad Scottish accent, then you can read the Reddit link that I wrote down in the description. I think that's all. If you let me know if this guide helps, what bits you want me to reiterate more on. I stream every day at twitch.tv/liquidox, and I appreciate seeing you guys there for top 50 standard ladder. And yeah, drop a like, drop a sub, and I'll see you guys next time. Stay healthy, stay hydrated.